I'm Jack. I'm 28 years old, living in a small town in Indiana. The kind of place where nothing ever happens, or so I used to think. Our town is surrounded by miles and miles of cornfields. People here joke that corn is our only neighbor. It might sound peaceful, but for me, those fields hold a darkness I'll never forget. This story still keeps me up at night, and I doubt I'll ever be the same. 2 years ago, late September, I'd just finished a long shift at the hardware store. I was tired and in a rush to get home. Usually, I took the main road, but that day I decided to cut through Old Man Harper's cornfield. His property stretched for acres, and though most folks avoided it, I wasn't worried. Harper was a bitter old hermit, known for scaring off trespassers, but I figured I'd be in and out before anyone noticed. The sun was setting when I stepped into the cornfield. The stalks were tall and dense, whispering as they swayed in the breeze. About halfway through, I started to feel uneasy. The air got colder, and everything went dead silent. No wind, no birds, just an unnatural stillness. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination playing tricks. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then I heard it, footsteps behind me. Heavy, deliberate footsteps crunching on the dirt path. I stopped, holding my breath, and turned around slowly. Nothing, just rows of corn stretching endlessly in every direction. I shook my head, laughing nervously. "Get it together, Jack," I muttered. I started walking again, faster this time. The footsteps returned closer, matching my pace. I whipped around, but once again nothing. My heart pounded in my chest. "Who's there?" I shouted. The only answer was silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that pressed against my ears. I forced myself to keep moving, trying to ignore the feeling that I was being watched. That's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, a shadow moved between the stalks. It was quick, barely more than a blur, but it was there. Panic surged through me. I broke into a run, crashing through the corn, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The stalks scratched at my face and arms, but I didn't care. I just needed to get out. The footsteps were right behind me now, heavy and relentless. I could hear them over my own heartbeat. Then I tripped. My foot caught on something, and I went down hard, hitting the dirt face first. Pain shot through my arm as I pushed myself up. I looked back to see what had tripped me, and my blood turned to ice. It was a human skull, half buried in the dirt. Its empty socket stared back at me, and for a moment, time stopped. Then I felt it, a cold, bony hand wrapping around my ankle. It yanked me back with such force that I screamed. I kicked and thrashed, but there was nothing there. Nothing but the corn, swaying as if alive. I scrambled to my feet, running blindly. My only thought was to escape. I could feel something behind me, breathing down my neck. The cornfield twisted around me. Paths that should have led out only led deeper in. I was trapped. Then I saw it, the figure standing in the distance. Tall, impossibly tall, its outline warped and wrong. It took a step closer, and I saw its face, or what should have been its face. It was a mass of shifting darkness, eyes that glowed with a cold, malevolent light. I stumbled back, choking on fear. "Leave," it whispered, a voice like rusted metal scraping against stone. The ground beneath me shifted, and I fell again, landing hard. The figure loomed over me, reaching out with hands that seemed to stretch forever. I thought it was the end. Suddenly, a gust of wind tore through the cornfield, breaking the silence. The figure hesitated, then melted back into the darkness. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I ran, faster than I ever thought possible, until I burst out onto the dirt road, gasping for air. I collapsed, shaking, tears streaming down my face. When I finally looked back, the cornfield was still. No shadow, no footsteps, nothing. But I knew it wasn't over. Whatever was in there, it had let me go. For now. I stumbled home, too terrified to tell anyone what happened. I avoided that field, but sometimes late at night, I hear footsteps outside my window. The same slow, deliberate steps. I don't know what it wants or why it let me live, but one thing is certain. The cornfield hasn't forgotten me. And I'll never forget it. If you ever find yourself near Old Man Harper's cornfield, stay away. Trust me, you don't want to know what's hiding in the corn.